Alrighty, so the next part in this video series, we're going to cover the concept of clutter a little more. Mental clutter, clutter in your surroundings. And because I don't want to clutter your mind with a bunch of stuff, we're going to do this in a nice serene place by the beach. Now, growing up, I was raised in a household with a very slovenly father, and he almost had this opinion that doing housework was beneath him. And I was raised with a mother who had no real experience in cleaning. I don't mean to dishonor, but it just wasn't stuff she was taught. I learned cleaning actually from my grandmother on my dad's side, Shirley, and we used to call her Hurricane Shirley because she had this way of coming to our house when we were kids and going through the house like a hurricane, but by the time she left it was spotless. And I remember one time we were getting the house ready for showing, and most of this task had been left to me, and my dad was doing other shit. I'm not sure what he was doing, but often what would happen is they'd tell me to clean the house, and they would tell my brothers to clean the house. My brothers would both bail out and go do whatever they wanted, and I'd be stuck at home cleaning because my dad's famous words that we heard often growing up is, "I want the house spotless by the time I get home, or you're all getting it with the belt." So my mom, she would clean sometimes, but not very often because she spent as much time away from the house as possible. She would kind of avoid the situation by working a lot and then going to school and all that, and then she'd work nights and stuff and be sleeping during the day. So, well, she did do some of that. I'm not saying she didn't do anything ever. She didn't do much. And if I'm being totally real about my mom, I often felt like there was this dynamic where she just frankly didn't want to do it. And when I reached a certain age, the only time she would really treat me well or give me anything that resembled love was when I was cleaning. And then it evolved years later, because this is lessons she never learned, to watching this woman in her late 50s living with a man who was still a slob, and now she too had developed all the same characteristics he had. I would watch them have these little nests with all this shit everywhere, and I see these guys like walking past piles of cat shit on the floor, because they didn't clean their litter box. This was the last time I went to visit them. So to give you an idea, they didn't really do much. And I think with my mom, I think what it started out as was a feeling of being overwhelmed. And then it morphed into, I'll push this off on somebody else. I don't want to deal with it. And I became the someone else that got pushed off on. And because I didn't have the freedom to push that off on anyone else, and I didn't, have the freedom to be like, no, I'm not going to, I had to figure out how to do it well and get good at it. And that started with my grandma Shirley. And she's a very focused woman. She's very much no bullshit, and she's a hard worker. She's not the warmest person in the world, but she's a hard worker, and she knows how to get shit done. And one thing I learned from her is this phrase, "That's jetzt." I'm from Wisconsin. She talks like, "Oh, that's jetzt. Throw it out." And she would do that, and she was kind of merciless in that, But she showed me the difference between something being clean and something being not clean. Because the way my parents had taught me, you cleaned and it still wasn't there. By now you may have guessed this video is not exactly about the specifics of cleaning. This is some more philosophy. Because I've had time to sit and think about my experience in my family, and then not just my family, but when I ended up getting married and then finding myself in the same situation with a husband who was lazy as fuck, couldn't be bothered to get off the couch because he wouldn't be able to play Call of Duty. I'll tell you a story about him. I had a surgery. I had a cyst on my ovary, and I had to have a surgery to remove my ovary and left fallopian tube because the cyst had gotten so big that it flipped. If you ever have a doctor say, well, we'll just wait and see what it does when you have the cyst, tell them to fuck themselves and get a second opinion. I ended up in the emergency room vomiting from the pain, and I'm a pretty strong person. I've experienced a lot of pain. That's the first time I'd ever been in so much pain that I was puking. So I have the surgery, and I'm recovering from the surgery, and there's these stacks of dishes because I wasn't able to do it. And I asked him, I'm like, can you please do these dishes? Like, this, it's getting gross in here. Can you please help me? And he was like, oh, yeah. And then he put it off, and he wouldn't do it. It became obvious he didn't give a shit, you know. And so I did it myself. And that was pretty early on in our marriage. We were married for 6 years altogether. We separated after about 5 years. We were together for 7 years. We separated after 5. We were married for 6. But you know, it became clear to me that I was around a lot of people who didn't respect me. And when you're talking about clearing the clutter and garbage from your life, I'm not telling you to leave your husband. I'm not telling you, you know, to kick your kids out or anything like that. I'm saying take a good look at how people treat you. Because a mistake I've made often in the past is because I was so used to cleaning, and I was so used to, I don't like my space to look like this, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it, that I tend to, you know, just do it. And then I get pissed off because I'm the only one who's doing it, and I guess you could say that I am depriving other people of their ability to do shit for themselves. Or I had been. I had a friend once who referred to me as a hippie Mary Poppins because every time I'd go to her house and hang out, I'd clean it, and it started to become obvious to me that, you know, she's not gonna do it, and it's not my responsibility to do it, and it's also a little out of place for me to take it upon myself to clean her place. But I was staying with her at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna live here, I'm not gonna live in this mess. So it's kind of like, if you have the option to be sort of selective about the people in your life, and if they're causing you a lot of chaos, you should really take a look at that. And I'm not a couples counselor, but there are people out there. That's an issue you're going to need to take up with your partner or the people in your environment. Or you're just going to have to, if you decide that you're with toxic people, at that point you just have to be like, bye, you know? And the biggest thing is, if you have a space, your inner space, you have to be sovereign. You cannot let other people dictate to you what your reality is going to be. So if you want to live in a reality where your environment is harmonious and a sanctuary, then you can't allow chaos in. You can't invite it in. And that takes a few things. It takes the personal responsibility that you clean it up as it happens. I mean, when you're living life, messes happen. That's a part of life. But you have to deal with those messes. You can't just let it build up, thinking if I just ignore it, it'll go away, because the hippie Mary Poppins will show up and take care of it for me. It doesn't work that way, generally speaking. Another example is my ex-husband's family. He came from a family of hoarders. Their house literally had paths through walls of garbage and random shit and dirty laundry and stuff like that. He wasn't raised with the tools to kind of keep things clean, and I get that. So I understand his upbringing. And I'm not going to go into all the horrible details of our marriage. I can look at him with some measure of compassion and be like, okay, I can see what created this, but that does not mean I have to take responsibility for it. And it does not mean I have to suffer because someone else isn't willing to take responsibility for their bullshit. So, what this is discernment. You gotta sit and look and be like, all right, is this something, and using an analogy of cleaning your house, right? You go through, say you're cleaning a room in a house, you go through, grab all the obvious garbage and throw it away or recycle it. And then you go through and you start looking at the stuff you got and being like, does this bring me joy? I saw that in a cleaning show one time when I was at the laundromat. And it's like I think it's like a Japanese thing. But one thing you can do, like say you're trying to go through your clothes and organize your clothes. You look at your stuff and ask yourself, does this bring me joy? Or are these pants too tight and when I wear them, I feel like a stuffed sausage? Or is this dress itchy and uncomfortable? You know, it's not only should we look at our possessions through that lens, but we should also look at our relationships. And we should look at our thoughts. Am I focusing on something that is stressing me the fuck out? Should I maybe change my focus to something else? Am I focusing on something that was in the past that I can't do a fucking thing about? Am I worried about a future that isn't here yet? Or should I focus on the present moment? So much like you're going through a house, you get rid of all the garbage. And then you start looking at the other things and you look at them closely and you figure, does it bring me joy? Is it bringing some kind of value to my life? Is it useful to me? Is it, is it enhancing my life or is it making it worse? And you can look at that with anything in life. The next step comes organizing, Well, actually, the step after that, I'm going to do a more in-depth video where we actually go through the process of cleaning the house too. So it's not just going to be all philosophy, and I have everything written out. But the next step, after you go and de-garbage a house or a room in a house and get rid of all the obvious junk, then you start consolidating and putting the like things with the like things. So what I do generally is I'll go and de-junk everything, and then I'll go around and start gathering up all the dishes I can find, because that's an obvious thing that needs to get taken care of, right? And just as there's obvious things in your physical surrounding that need to get taken care of, you might have some mental thing cluttering up your mind that needs to be taken care of, whether that's errands you got to do, or it's a worry you have, something that's taking up space. And you consolidate it so you can see it clearly for the amount of work that the task is going to be. And what I mean by that is, if it's dishes, gather up all the dishes, stack them neatly. That way when everything is all in the same place, it doesn't look quite as massive. And when you go through the process of actually doing the dishes, it's going to run a lot smoother. So what I do is I go and I grab all the pots and pans and I stack them, and then I grab all the plates and I stack them, and the bowls, I stack those on top of the plates, and then I grab all the drinking glasses and I stack them, and all the coffee cups and I stack them, and then I grab all the silverware. And another useful thing to do with silverware is grab all the spoons, put those together, all the forks, put those together, all the knives, put those together, and then the utensils, or your cooking utensils. like the spoon your mom might whack you with. My mom never whacked me with a spoon, but it was a good example. Because then when you start doing the dishes, you can do them all the same shit so like you do all the plates, you wash all the plates, you get those done, rinse them, dry them, and then you can put them all away. That's done. So that's a task within a task that's finished. Same things with the dishes and the cups. The other thing that's important too, obvious, is to use like really piping hot water, because you want to sanitize that shit. And if you use really hot water when you're rinsing your dishes, it's going to make drying them easier, because they're already going to evaporate some of that moisture off. I feel like there should be some sort of like profound insight with using really hot water. If I think of it, I'll let you know. Maybe you can think of it. So you take a task, you consolidate it, so you see what you're dealing with, basically. So you get all the dishes done, and before I go on, the other thing you got to do is you move all the dishes into one spot, right? So everything's all right there. And then you may take all your appliances, like your coffee pot or your tea kettle or your toaster, all those things that need to be wiped down, move those over too. I tend to take everything and move it all over to the kitchen table, provided you have enough space. And then you wipe down the counters, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to go and through all the trouble of doing the dishes and then not wipe down the counters. It doesn't make sense to take dirty dishes or clean dishes and put them on a dirty counter, right? So, and the other good thing to do is work top to bottom, because as you're cleaning, you're going to be wiping down the counters, and you might end up like getting crumbs or something on the floor. It doesn't make any sense to sweep the floor before you do the counters, right? And it doesn't make any sense to put clean dishes on a dirty surface. So that's what I'm getting at. So it's a matter of kind of looking at things, and you're analyzing your environment, and you're looking at the steps you got to take to do things with the least amount of work possible. It's a work smarter, not harder sort of thing. Then, I'm trying to think of some more metaphors here. So you go through, consolidate everything, so you know what you're dealing with. Don't fuck with the shit in your cupboards. Don't fuck with your junk drawer. Don't fuck with your pantry. Just work on the obvious mess. Move everything into one spot. Wipe down the counters. You can wipe down the cabinets and stuff if you want to, if they're gross. Wipe down the stove. Get all your surfaces clean, save for the table where you're stacking everything. Then go do your dishes. Then after you got your dishes done, you can move on to wiping your little appliances and putting those back, like your coffee maker. Wipe that down, put that where it needs to go. If you have all your like stuff with your like stuff, it's going to be easier to kind of figure out where it needs to go. And on that note, I want to add one more thing. I'm going to do a video about organizing. Fuck it, I'll just go and do it right now. Likes with likes, because eventually you want to get into a point where when you're getting your kitchen set up, restructuring it, you want to kind of have everything positioned in a way that makes sense. So you would want to keep, say, your kitchen cooking utensils next to your stove so they're within easy reach, right? You may want to keep all of your baking stuff in one area, your cleaning stuff in one area. Kind of start thinking about all of the different little sectors in your kitchen, or the little zones, and think about the stuff that you use the most frequently and the stuff that you use the least frequency. The stuff that you use the most frequency, I keep saying frequency. The stuff that you use the most frequently, you're going to want that in an easy to reach area. The stuff that's not used as much, that can go into more of a storage area. So, like if you're like me and you drink a lot of coffee, it would probably make sense to have your coffee pot and your coffee mugs in a spot that's easy to access and easy to clean. But if, say, you're like me and you don't do a ton of baking, that stuff, like your baking shit, might go into an area that you don't go to as much. Like you might put like your flour and your sugar and all that in a pantry. But if you are someone who bakes all the time, you might want to have that in easy access in the kitchen. You know, I don't bake at all right now because I live in my car, and I live in my car because I don't want roommates trashing my house, especially if it's not actually my house. So it's a little harder to be like, "What the fuck?" when you don't own the place. So, and I look at this world as my house, you know, and I do a lot of cleaning here, picking up trash. If you saw the other videos, but you know, I enjoy being able to sit and relax and film a video while I'm looking out at this, at the ocean, and at all these mountains, and all this beauty. And that's not for everyone, I get it, you know. And there are definitely times where I'm like, okay, it would be cool to be sleeping in a bed right now. I'm in my car, and eventually I'm going to trade in my car and get a van or do something else. But you know, I've kind of made peace with this lifestyle because it seems to be calling me for whatever reason. And so yeah, so I just wanted to share that about decluttering and cleaning. Cleaning is a great metaphor for life, you know. And if you're cleaning a space, you're blessing it. You know, if you're clearing your mind, you're blessing yourself. And it's important to stay sovereign and stay honest with yourself about, you know, how your environment and the things around you are making you feel. You know, and it took me a long time to realize that I was around some really toxic people who were not doing me any favors. And it took me a long time to let go of the guilt for actually loving myself enough to fucking cut ties with that. And we're gonna go into that kind of stuff a lot more in depth. This is the tip of the iceberg. But I think this will get you off to a start and give you some things to think about. And I talked to a couple friends because I want to offer you some real help with this, especially if you're a person who struggles with like trying to find some balance in your space. I want to show you step by step how to do this too. So I've reached out to some of my friends who have dirty kitchens and such and asked them if they would like me to clean their kitchen for free so that I can get some content for this and share it with you guys. So I've got that set up and I'll be doing that soon. And I'll be having everything written down in a neat guide that you can follow. And I think that'll help a lot. You know, it's really important to take a look at the clutter and take a look at if your possessions are possessing you. Like, I want to share one more story about my mom. At one point in time, my mom had a collection of over 100 different teapots. What the fuck do you need 100 different teapots for? And when she came to her senses and got rid of the fucking teapots, she started collecting chickens. What the fuck do you need 100 fucking chickens for? So, and no dissing to anybody who likes to collect stuff, but you gotta be mindful, like, if you got all these knickknacks and different things in your house, that's all shit you gotta take care of. It's all shit that you're gonna look at every day, and it's gonna be affecting your subconscious. And it's going to be affecting your subconscious even more if it's all shit that's super dirty because it's been collecting dust, because looking at your 100 plus teapots is overwhelming the shit out of you at the thought of having to clean all that stuff. So you're going to go ask your daughter to do it for you or something like that. So, and ask yourself why you feel the need to have all this stuff. Why do you need to have all these layers of things around you? Are you collecting this stuff because you feel maybe an emptiness somewhere else? Is there something you're trying to fill with this stuff? It's really important to look inward, you know, because the less stuff it takes you to be satisfied in life, the happier you'll be. We live in a society that tells us that our worth is based on our possessions, on the amount of money we make, on the clothes we wear, on the way we do our hair, etc. And it's a fucked up mentality that needs to go. Because as soon as you get that thing you think is going to make you feel better, the next fad comes in and you got to go buy that. And it's stupid. And I'm not trying to diss people who like to collect things, but I'm just saying be mindful about it. Do you really need 100 teapots? You know, could you narrow your collection down to maybe like 5 or 6 teapots that are maybe like antiques, or, you know, have some kind of special meaning to you beyond this is another thing I can add to my collection? Do you need 6 cars? I doubt it. Can you drive 6 cars at the same time? No? No? Okay. I could go on and on with these analogies. I think I made my point, but don't let your possessions possess you. And, you know, clutter can also be people. And I'm not trying to be insensitive, but you really got to ask yourself if the relationships in your life are serving you, if they're helping you grow as a person, or if they're slowly degrading your sense of self-respect and self-worth and self-love. And if you haven't tried to do something about that by talking to them, try that and pay attention to how they react. Are they valuing what you have to say, or are they just being like, I'm not even hearing you, or attempting to do anything about it? Because it takes 2 to tango. And then also look at your own bullshit too, you know? For example, my ex-husband, I look back at all that and it was a pretty manipulative, abusive relationship. There's a lot of gaslighting. He was cheating on me all the time. But, you know, if I was a person who loved myself and valued myself and respected myself at that time, I would have never fucking stayed with him. It was red flag after red flag, and at some point I had to accept responsibility for the fact that I'm letting this dude treat me like garbage, because I don't believe I deserve better. I didn't at the time. So, and furthermore, along those same lines, you know, I started turning into a person I didn't like very much, even more than how much I didn't like myself, because I would be so frustrated and angry and hurt at the way he was treating me that I'd get mad at him and yell at him, when I was like doing him a disservice, because the best thing at that point would have been just to leave. It was almost like fueling the fire, you know? It's giving him attention that maybe if I would have just left and been like, you know what, I'm not going to put up with this from you, maybe that would have taught him a better lesson than staying and being complacent to a bunch of bullshit for so long, you know? It's just something to think about. But rewatch this video if you have to, and then be on the lookout. Some of the next stuff I'm going to share is actual tangible examples with step-by-step processes. We're going to use a kitchen as an example, because that's usually the hardest room in the house for people to manage. It's the one that gets dirty the quickest. It's got the most traffic flow, and there's, you know, shit in there. And I'll probably do other videos covering like bathrooms and going over, you know, like all this different stuff. And I'm also going to do other videos on synchronicities and the different experiences I've had with that. And I invite you to share your experiences here and with your friends, and check out my other videos. This is in a series, so I have 2 kind of intro ones that I've already shared, and I would love it if you would watch them and let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to know about, what you want to hear, what made sense, what could use more clarity, And yeah, leave me your feedback, because I'm still kind of working through this program and sharing as I go. Anyway, have an awesome, blessed day. Thank you so much for watching this. If you made it this far, if you could share this and subscribe and all that shit people on YouTube say, that would be super cool. And like my video and stuff, I'd be like, hell yeah. And thank you. And hit the subscribe button thing too, so that you know when I make new videos. And have an awesome day. Namaste. Aloha. I fucking love you. Clouds are cool. Okay, bye. At this point, I'd like to share something else that was kind of interesting. As I watched this, it felt like my higher self was talking through me to me. I hadn't showered when I filmed it, and I looked kind of rugged, and it was like it was telling me, yo bitch, you need to take care of yourself. So I was like, you know, you're right, and if you're gonna clean, you should start with your most sacred house, the one you live in your body. I want to share one other quick synchronicity too that happened after I filmed the video you just watched. So as I was saying, I was feeling a little unkempt. I've been driving the whole day. I hadn't had a shower, and so I was kind of messy. And as I went back and rewatched the video, I noticed it was weird. It was like my higher self was like channeling down, talking through me to me, and kind of felt like I was getting a little bit of a lecture. Like if you were to listen to it from the perspective of your spirit speaking about living in your body, you know. And I was like, I'm kind of smelly right now. I should probably brush my hair. And not out of any kind of judgment, but more out of like, just love yourself, love the body you live in, you know. I had been kind of slacking at the gym. I needed to kind of do some of that. I'm going to take some time to stretch today and really get in my body and take care of it. So anyway, after that, you know, I left that park, and I was heading back toward Kona side. I live in Hawaii. And I ended up being stuck behind this large flatbed with like a construction thing on it, and feeling really frustrated because I like driving fast, and not too fast, you know. And I'm like, why are you so slow, God? But the slow truck moving vehicle thing in front of me forced me to kind of pay more attention to my surroundings, and I noticed this park I hadn't been to before, and I was like, well, shit, I don't really want to be stuck behind this dude for miles, so I'm gonna pull into this park and check it out. I'm gonna share some of the video I took there and what happened. It was really cool. One other thing I want to share is one synchronicity I follow quite a bit is lately it's been coming to me more just within the last month or so, but I keep seeing like yellow vehicles, a lot of them, a weird amount of them at weird times when I'm thinking about like this kind of spiritual path sort of thing and other things. And I was like, that's weird. And then I noticed that the flatbed that was in front of me was yellow, and so was the machinery that was on it. And I was like, huh. And then when I pulled in, the first thing I saw was this beautiful tree with all these bright yellow flowers. I got video of that. And then as I went in, I saw this peacock. And you'll see all that, and I'll share some more about it. Hanging out with my homie here, the peacock. And the peacock. You like my keys? Let's drop this here feather. Is this yours? Is your feather? Is that your feather? No, not yours. No, that feather is not your feather. That was the coolest thing ever. I think there's another one. Maybe the feather belongs to that one. Oh, look at it. What do we got here? Hello. How's it going? How are you today? You look cool up there. What's up? Aloha. It appears I was mistaken. I believe the feather was a gift. So I'd like to share some thoughts about that whole experience that I just shared with you. First of all, I had just watched my videos and I was feeling really down on myself. I'm like, oh God, I look like awful. And then I see this beautiful tree, these beautiful flowers. And I heard that noise, I didn't know what it was. And I walked over to that other area and I see these like peacocks and I'm like, what the fuck, peacocks, cool. I'll share something interesting. So in the mastermind program I was working on, the course that this video is a part of, initially I had a thumbnail that had a lady on a broom wearing a witch hat with a peacock feather in it. And I'll share that image in a second. I don't know. Anyway, so I was like, that's synchronous. Then another synchronicity happened after that. So I left the park and I'm on my way back to Kona. I was going to go to the gym to shower and I ended up stuck behind another flatbed with another construction thing on it. And this time I was getting more frustrated. I was like, okay, come on, man. Like, I really need a shower. Like, what the fuck? I feel gross. And it was a slow drive all the way back to Kona, and I'm like, all right. And I finally get to the gym, and the gym's closed, and I can't take a shower, and I'm like, frankly, fairly pissed off. And I'm going to be totally real with you. I'm not always all love and light. Sometimes I can turn into an angsty bitch. But, and that happened to me, like, when I feel gross and I haven't had a chance to shower and stuff, it affects my state, it affects my mood. And that's what I want to speak to. If you noticed in that video, the showers in the bathrooms in that park were taped off and closed, probably because of the pandemic. A lot of bathrooms are not open to people. And a lot of the parks here, well, we're lucky here in Hawaii that we have outdoor showers because of the ocean for people to rinse off. There aren't a lot of public places where people can just bathe. There's some, but the park I'm at right now has a pretty nice shower facility, but it does close at 9, so unless you're camping here, the gates close and they have a security that comes and kick you out, So I'm looking into getting a pass, but generally what I do is like I come down here during the day, I do some work on my tablet and stuff, and shower in the morning, either at the gym or here, depending, and spend some time in nature. This is a serene place, and I do that at some other parks on the island. But a lot of people don't have the luxury of a car where they can travel to parks that are a little bit more set up. Like in Kona itself, there are 2 parks. They have outdoor showers. You don't really get the dignity of a private shower. It's harder to really be diligent in your hygiene if you're trying to wash your privates in private. You can't really, because they're right out in the open for everyone to see. It's undignified. And it wouldn't really be that hard to just put an enclosement on there. And I'm sure there's a lot of people too who are just, like uncomfortable with being that exposed. I know I've been there. I've come a lot further with my body positivity kind of stuff, but I'm still pretty shy and that kind of thing. And I think it would be nice for people to have some measure of dignity, especially people who already are in a position where they're feeling dehumanized, because homelessness, there's a lot of stigma attached to that, and a lot of people get a bad rap, and it's even harder to, I mean, people go, oh, go get a job or something like that. Well, how are they supposed to get a job when they have no way to really get themselves clean, And how are you supposed to be at your best when you feel awful because you haven't gotten a good shower in a long time? There's these different things that a lot of people don't really think of because they haven't been in that situation. They haven't been in the position where, they have had to feel that way, and it's kind of bullshit. And it's especially bullshit now during a pandemic where cleanliness is of the most importance, that you have facilities being shut down so people can't remain hygienic, and then you think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There are certain things people need to have their basic survival needs met if they're going to act their best. It's a fact. You can't fucking deny it. You can't call them lazy. You can't say, well, you should do better for yourself. It's like, I'm sorry, if you were in the same position, you probably wouldn't be super great either. And I mean super great by like at your best. And if you don't think so, fuck you. It's true. And I'm going to speak out for that, And I've met a number of people on the streets who are amazing souls. And I've met people on the streets who were lost. And there's a reason they're lost. There's a reason they turn to drugs and stuff like that, because people do not treat them with any dignity. And I agree about personal responsibility, trust me. I've seen that for myself. You have to, at some point, take responsibility for how you choose to live. But at the same time, our society at large could also take responsibility for how we treat our people, And so there's a balance there that has to happen. And that's, self-love inside and outside, love for other people. So I'm done with that rant. And I think, I don't know who I would talk to about this, but I think I'm going to start bothering people on a deeper level and being annoying. So I'm going to look into that. If you know any ways so that I can effectively be annoying to the right people, please comment on this video and let me know. And if you would like to collaborate with me on this, please let me know. If you are involved in any projects, such as helping homeless people or building projects so that people have some shelter or food, things like that, let me know, and I would like to help further. I'm just one person, but together we're a lot of people. One big person. Shalala. All right. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching my video and listening to my rant. And I wanted to say one other thing. Speaking of thank you and gratitude, let me get this out. Sorry. I also want to say thank you to the universe. And I did this immensely last night, but this really helped me. So, and I said thank you to the peacock who gifted me this feather. And this is symbolic of the whole gift of the feather that I've been talking about in my other videos. If you haven't seen them, go check them out. They're in this playlist. It's the Mess to Magic playlist, and it's about following your synchronicity. It's about following the synchronicity in the ways that Spirit guides you through life. And the gift of the feather basically means when you find feathers, it means you're on your spiritual path. You're doing the right thing. You're on the right track. So for me to find this yesterday while I'm doing these videos and stuff was so empowering to me. It was like, I'm doing the right thing here. And I've gotten a lot of confirmation on that. And I would love to hear your stories about this. And I'd love to see if are you following your path? And if so, how has that unfolded for you? What experiences have you had? Because we can all have these experiences. Because everybody is part of the infinite. You are part of God. You are part of spirit. Your spirit manifesting And everyone is. And that's where your power comes from, because you're a part of that, and that's my message. Love you guys. Have a beautiful day. And thank you so much for watching. It'd be awesome if you like and share this on the social media stuff and comment and all that. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.